Happy Sunday. It is February 22nd, 2026. And I don't know, is it just me or does this year already feel like it's trying to break some kind of speed record?
Oh, it's definitely moving fast. I mean, the news cycle alone seems to be doing sprints right alongside it.
Seriously, I was looking at the snack of sources for our deep dives this week. And honestly, it felt a bit like staring at a really chaotic mood board.
That is a very good way to put it.
Right, because you've got these massive, scary geopolitical tensions over here, some really dry but terrifying economic data right in the middle, and then
And the smart glasses.
yes,
Right.
just to keep things spicy, some absolutely bizarre courtroom drama involving billionaires and smart glasses.
It's a pretty accurate summary of the world right now, honestly. It's this wild mix of the macro and the micro. And really, our mission today is to figure out how those big abstract headlines, oil prices, trade deficits, how they actually crash land into our daily life.
Exactly. We are talking about everything from the price of your commute to, frankly, the safety of your kids online.
Yeah.
And we actually have a major milestone to cover today, too. A changing of the guard that historians are probably going to mark in red ink. Amazon versus Walmart. The retail crown has officially passed.
It has. Plus, we really need to get into why Wall Street is suddenly having a huge panic attack over artificial intelligence spending.
Oh, the AI jitters.
Right. And also why your next flu shot might get approved faster than ever before. There was a lot of ground to cover.
There is a lot to get through, but I want to start with the big picture, the macro backdrop, because every time I opened a news app this week, I just saw red text, specifically regarding oil, what is actually going on there.
So it's the return of the fear premium. Crude oil prices are climbing, and it's definitely not because people are suddenly out there driving more. It's entirely geopolitical right now.
Okay.
There is a very real growing fear of U.S. strikes on Iran and potential disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, okay, so I see Strait of Hormuz in headlines all the time. But remind us, why does that specific stretch of water matter so much to, a regular person? Why does the whole economy basically shake when that name comes up?
Because it is arguably the world's most important oil choke point. About 20% of the world's total oil consumption passes through that single strait every single day.
20%.
Yeah. If that gets blocked, even partially, you aren't just looking at a few extra cents at the gas pump. You are looking at a global energy cardiac arrest.
That sounds completely catastrophic, so why aren't the markets just crashing completely then?
Well, this is where the expert analysis is trying to talk everyone off the ledge a bit. Strategists at Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan, they're basically telling their clients to take a deep breath.
What's their reasoning?
Their base case right now is that any military action will be surgical. They see a limited sustained supply loss. So they're projecting that the worst-case scenario won't actually hit the oil flow long-term.
Surgical. I mean, we have heard that word before in military conflicts, right? It rarely stays surgical for long. Do the markets actually believe that, or is that just bankers trying to keep everyone calm so they don't pull their money?
Honestly, it's likely a bit of both. The markets are banking on cooler heads prevailing. But if you look at the volatility index, it tells a slightly different story. Investors are nervous.
And they should be.
Yeah, and that nervousness feeds right into the broader U.S. economy, which is already sending us some very mixed signals early here in 2026.
Mixed is an understatement. I saw the GDP numbers for the fourth quarter. We grew at 1.4% annualized, which feels slow. Yeah, it feels really slow.
It is slow. It's a definite cool down. The economy is decelerating from the hot streak we saw a couple of years ago. But here is the major problem. Usually, when the economy cools down like this, inflation drops.
And that's not happening.
Not fast enough. The core PCE rose 3.0% year over year.
Okay, pause right there. We hear core PCE thrown around a lot on the financial channels. Why should a normal person care about that acronym versus, say, the CPI, which everyone knows?
That's a great question. The Federal Reserve actually prefers the core PCE, which stands for personal consumption expenditures, because it filters out volatile things like food and energy prices. Those bounce around a lot week to week.
Right.
So filtering those out gives the Fed a much better look at the underlying trend. And a 3% underlying trend is still way above their 2% target.
So the economy is slowing down, meaning growth is stalling, but prices are still rising faster than the Fed wants. That sounds like the worst of both worlds.
It's a massive headache for the central bank right now. Everyone was betting on these rapid rate cuts in 2026 to help regular people with mortgages and auto loans. But with inflation stuck at 3%, the Fed really can't cut rates aggressively without risking prices spiraling right back up.
It's a trap.
Basically. Walmart's CEO actually described the current backdrop as somewhat unstable in their latest forward guidance.
See, when Walmart says things are unstable, I listen. They see the receipts, literally for the entire country.
Exactly. They have the ultimate data set. And a big part of that instability they're seeing comes from the trade war front. We found a study in the source material from the J.P. Morgan Chase Institute that was pretty shocking regarding tariffs.
Oh, this one blew my mind. The study focused specifically on mid-sized companies, right?
Yes, they found that the tariff burden for U.S. mid-sized companies has tripled in the past year.
Crippled.
Tripled.
So if I'm running a mid-sized manufacturing plant, my tax bill, basically for importing parts, just went up 300%?
Essentially, yes. And the big question is always, who pays for that?
Well, the politicians usually say the foreign country pays it.
Right. But Economics 101 tells us that is rarely how it works. The importer pays the tariff at the border, and a mid-sized company cannot just absorb a triple cost increase out of nowhere.
So what do?
They have three bad options. They either raise prices for you, the consumer, or they hire fewer people, or they accept lower profit margins, which hurts their stock and their ability to grow. Usually, we see a mix of all three.
So at the end of the day, we are paying for it.
We are definitely paying for it. And what's wild is, despite all these tariffs designed to quote-unquote decouple us from China, the U.S. trade deficit is still massive. It's sitting at $901.5 billion.
But the flows are shifting, aren't they? Like, we aren't buying as much directly from Beijing anymore.
Correct. The data shows trade is heavily moving to Taiwan and Vietnam. But here is the real kicker. While we are buying fewer cheap consumer goods from China, our imports of high-end AI chips and telecom gear are absolutely surging.
Ah, so we stopped buying the $5 plastic toys, but we're backing up the truck for $1 million server racks.
Exactly. And that high-value tech gear is incredibly expensive, which is keeping the monthly trade gap extremely wide. It was about $70.3 billion in December alone.
Wow. That actually segues perfectly into our second theme, because we are importing all this expensive tech gear purely because of the AI boom. But looking at the sources this week, the whole vibe on AI has shifted from excitement to anxiety.
Oh, 100%. We have definitely entered the show me the money phase of AI.
Right.
The honeymoon period where a CEO could just say AI on an earnings call and their stock would shoot up, that is over.
I saw Amazon is actually taking some heat for this. They are spending an eye-watering amount of money.
It is staggering. Amazon is facing intense Wall Street scrutiny for $200 billion in AI capital expenditure, or CapEx.
$200 billion. With a B.
Yeah.
That is literally the GDP of a small country.
It is infrastructure spending on a scale we have rarely seen in human history. They're building massive data centers, buying all those chips we just talked about, laying fiber. But investors are looking at that $200 billion number and asking, okay, where's the $200 billion in new profit to justify that?
And the answer seems to be, what, it's coming.
Yeah. Basically, trust us, it's coming. And markets historically hate trusts us. Bank of America actually flashed a sell signal on equity exposure, specifically because of this CapEx bloat. They think companies are just overspending blindly.
There is also a darker side to this AI narrative, especially for the workforce. We saw a term pop up in the sources from Sam Altman at OpenAI that I found fascinating. AI washing.
This is such a cynical development, but so interesting. AI washing is when a company claims they are laying people off because of AI efficiency, but in reality, they just messed up their budget, overhired, and needed to cut costs anyway.
That feels incredibly convenient. It's like using a get-out-of-jail-free card. Instead of a CEO standing up and saying, hey, we managed poorly, they get to say, we are pivoting to a bold, digital-first future.
Exactly. It makes the executive look like a visionary innovator rather than a bad manager. But to be fair to Altman, he did flag this term, but also warned that while some of this current wave is fake, the real job displacement from AI is eventually coming.
Mark Cuban had a take on this, too, in the sources, which I actually found kind of helpful for you out there listening and worrying about your job.
He did. He said, the danger isn't just the AI itself, it's how you choose to use it. He said you can use large language models to learn everything, or you can use them to avoid learning entirely.
Meaning, do you use ChatGPT to write the email for you so you can go goof off and watch Netflix? Or do you use it to explain a complex concept to you so you actually understand it better?
Precisely. He's urging people to focus heavily on implementation. If you are the person in the office who knows how to apply these AI tools to solve actual, tangible business problems, you are safe. If you're just using them to be lazy and outsource your brain, you are going to be replaceable.
That's a tough pill to swallow, but probably necessary advice. Meanwhile, while we are sitting here debating white-collar layoffs and stock prices, what is happening across the Pacific? Because it sounds like China isn't slowing down at all on the hardware side of things.
No, they are accelerating rapidly. The reports we have show China is making huge, rapid advances in humanoid robots.
Wait, we're talking C-3PO types. 2 arms, 2 legs.
Yes, actual bipedal robots. The sources indicate their unit costs are falling fast, and they are already starting to scale up shipments. This is a direct shot across the bow at U.S. efforts, specifically Tesla and their Optimus project.
It feels like the EV race all over again, doesn't it? Like, China got really good at making batteries cheap, and now they totally dominate global EVs. Are they doing the exact same playbook with robots?
That is the big fear in the tech sector right now. If they can produce a highly functional humanoid robot for half the price of a U.S. version, they essentially win the manufacturing war of the next decade.
Speaking of Tesla, they are feeling that pressure right now in their core car business, too. I saw they just cut the price of the Cybertruck.
They did. The dual-motor Cybertruck is now marked down to $59,990. They are aggressively trying to revive demand because the broader EV market has gone really soft. It's a good reminder that even the biggest, most hyped tech innovators aren't immune to basic supply and demand.
Which brings us perfectly to our next theme, the titans of industry. We actually have a new king of retail. And this is a moment we should probably pause on because it signals a huge fundamental shift in how the whole economy works.
It really does. For the first time ever, looking at the 2025 numbers, Amazon officially overtook Walmart in total revenue. Amazon brought in $716.9 billion, just barely edging out Walmart's $713.2 billion.
The torch is passed. But this isn't just a story of Amazon sold more physical stuff than Walmart, right? Because Walmart still moves an unbelievable amount of physical goods.
That's the key distinction here. Walmart moves physical boxes. Amazon moves boxes too, obviously, but their overall revenue dominance is actually being driven by AWS, which is their cloud computing division, and their massive new advertising business.
So the biggest retailer in the world is actually a tech and data company that's just disguised as a store.
Precisely. It signals this massive shift from a physical goods economy to a digital services economy. Walmart is still incredible at logistics and groceries, but Amazon is monetizing the literal infrastructure of the internet. That just has fundamentally higher margins and apparently a higher ceiling.
Wow. Okay, so while Amazon is taking a victory lap, the traditional media industry is, well, it's basically burning down. What in the world is happening over at Warner Bros. Discovery?
Oh, it's a total mess. Warner Bros., Discovery, the folks who own HBO, CNN, the Batman movies, they are desperately trying to figure out who to merge with just to survive the streaming wars. And it has turned into a total civil war internally.
I read in the sources that the staff is practically begging for Netflix to buy them.
They are. The internal reports say staff would much rather see Netflix acquire the studios and the HBO Max platform.
Why? Is it just because Netflix has the most cash?
Mostly, it's about stability. Netflix is the only pure streaming company that has actually figured out how to make the business model profitable. The main alternative on the table is a hostile takeover by Paramount Skydance. And to the staff, that feels like tying two sinking ships together in a storm.
But the problem with a Netflix deal is the government, right?
The regulators, yes. State attorneys general are already out there sharpening their knives to block a Paramount bid. A Netflix deal would face even more intense antitrust scrutiny. WBD just got a 7-day waiver to rethink their options, but they are stuck between a rock and a very hard place.
Now, I want to touch on something from the financial sector that sounds boring on the surface, but it's actually terrifying when you dig in. Private credit. We saw a headline in the Stack about a firm called Blue Owl Capital restricting redemptions. Can you translate that into plain English for us?
Sure. So private credit is basically corporate lending that happens completely outside of traditional banks. It's grown into a massive $3 trillion market. Restricted redemptions is just fancy Wall Street talk for you can't have your money back right now.
Whoa. So retail investors put their money into this fund, and now the doors are locked.
Exactly. Blue Owl had to sell $1.4 billion in loans just to generate some quick cash. They're returning about 30% of capital to the investors who asked for it, but they literally can't pay everyone out.
Why does this matter to someone listening who doesn't invest in obscure private credit funds?
Because when people can't get their money out of a fund, it creates widespread panic. If big pension funds or insurers are stuck in these private investments and suddenly need cash, they might be forced to sell off other things, like regular stocks or bonds, just to raise money. It can cause a huge contagion effect across the whole financial system. It's essentially a crack in the dam of a $3 trillion market.
Okay, let's look at something a bit more tangible for the average person, the actual money in our pockets. We have a weird split screen happening in the economy right now. Labor is winning some big fights, but utility bills are winning too.
Yes. The win for labor recently is huge. Workers at the Volkswagen plant in Chattanooga just ratified their first UAW deal, and they did it with 96% support. That is an absolute landslide.
And they got a 20% wage increase out of it.
But they did. It proves that the union movement isn't dead at all. It's actually gaining serious ground in the South, which has historically been fiercely anti-union.
But then you get home from your new higher-paying factory job, turn on the heater, and that raise basically evaporates.
Right, because on the other side, DTE Energy just got a $242 million rate hike approved. Duke Energy is out there warning customers about much higher bills due to the recent cold snaps and winter usage. So the basic cost of simply existing, heating your home, keeping the lights on, is quickly eating up those hard-won wage gains.
It's the treadmill. You run faster just to stay in the exact same place.
Exactly.
I want to move to our final theme for today: safety, law, and privacy. And frankly, this section of the news is a bit of a circus right now. We have Mark Zuckerberg back in court.
It is a landmark trial happening in LA regarding teen safety and social media addiction. And Zuckerberg is, well, he's trying to rewrite history just a little bit. He testified that he actually contacted Tim Cook at Apple way back in 2018 about the quote-unquote well-being of teens.
So he's trying to say, look, I've been worried about this for years. It's not just me.
Right. He wants to show the court he was proactive and trying to partner on solutions. But the optics of the trial itself they're just messy.
Okay, we have to talk about the smart glasses. I actually laughed out loud when I read this in the source material.
You cannot make this up.
Mm.
While their CEO's on the stand testifying about privacy and the dangers of tech addiction, Meta staff were sitting in the courtroom wearing those Meta smart glasses, ones with hidden cameras in them.
In a federal courtroom.
Yes. The judge literally had to stop proceedings and admonish them. It's such a spectacular lack of self-awareness. You are on trial for invading privacy and harming kids, and you bring wearable surveillance devices into the legal proceedings.
It's like smoking a cigarette at your own lung cancer trial. Who approved that?
Honestly, it just shows how completely normalized this intrusive tech has become in Silicon Valley. They probably didn't even think twice about it. But the law is definitely starting to think about it. LA County is also currently suing Roblox.
My nephews are absolutely obsessed with Roblox. What are they being accused of?
The allegations are pretty dark. The lawsuit claims Roblox actively exposes minors to predators and has completely insufficient age verification systems. Roblox disputes this entirely, obviously.
Literally.
But the broader legal argument here is shifting. It used to be parents should watch their kids online. Now, local governments are arguing these platforms are designing products that are inherently dangerous by design.
There is a similar pushback happening with physical surveillance, too, like Amazon Ring cameras. I saw something in the notes about a bounty.
Yes, a privacy nonprofit recently offered a $10,000 prize to anyone who can figure out how to hack an Amazon Ring cameras so it runs without sending any data back to Amazon.
So they basically want to cut the cord to the mothership.
Specifically, they want to block the search party feature. This is the feature that lets neighbors pool their camera feeds to help find missing persons or track suspicious activity. Amazon frames it as community safety, but privacy advocates look at it and see a privatized corporate surveillance network that basically turns your neighbors into cops.
It's that classic tension, right? Safety versus privacy. And it's not just digital. The source has also brought up Planet Fitness facing severe scrutiny over their locker room policies.
Right. There was an exposure incident in Virginia, and it highlights the exact same tension. Where is the line between an inclusive policy and protecting the basic physical privacy of patrons in a vulnerable space like a locker room?
It seems like everywhere we look, privacy is just eroding. Speaking of tension and lawsuits, we also have this lingering legal ghost in the news, Jeffrey Epstein.
It seems we can never fully close that chapter. Leslie Wexner, who's the former head of L Brands, the parent company of Victoria's Secret, was recently deposed. He claimed under oath that Epstein just name-dropped powerful figures and that he personally knew absolutely nothing about the crimes.
Does anyone actually buy that at this point?
It's hard to say what people believe, but the reputational damage is incredibly sticky. It drags the Victoria's Secret brand right back into a national conversation about exploitation, right at the exact moment they're desperately trying to rebrand and modernize.
Wow. Okay, I want to end this section on a regulatory change that could actually save lives, but it's definitely controversial. The FDA is changing their approval rules.
This is a huge deal in the medical world. For a long time, the absolute gold standard for approving a new drug was requiring two big, separate, successful clinical trials. The FDA is now officially saying they will accept a single, adequate, and well-controlled trial as long as there is some corroborating evidence alongside it.
It sounds efficient, but is it safe?
That is the big debate. It speeds up medical innovation immensely.
Hmm.
For example, Moderna just got their amended flu vaccine application accepted for the 2026-27 season, largely because of this shift. We could get much better targeted mRNA flu shots to the public much faster.
And there's always a but. If you only run one trial and you happen to miss a rare side effect?
Then you have a massive public health problem. It shifts the regulatory dial from maximum caution to maximum speed. In a world where we just went through a pandemic and face rapid bio threats, a lot of experts argue that speed is necessary. But it undeniably carries more risk.
So let's try to tie all these crazy threads together. We have the world on edge with oil and war. We have the economy doing this really weird growth is slowing down, but prices are still going up dance. And we have technology moving so unbelievably fast, from humanoid robots in China to AI data centers, that the law and our wallets can barely keep up.
And running through all of this, there is this underlying theme of reality versus narrative. Is the AI boom real profit, or is it just infrastructure spending? Is the surgical strike plan a real strategy, or just banker hope? Is the AI washing layoff real innovation, or just a cover for corporate cost-cutting?
That connects right back to the AI washing concept we talked about earlier from Sam Altman. I really can't stop thinking about that. For everyone listening, just think about it. If major companies are perfectly willing to use AI as a convenient cover story for layoffs that they were going to do anyway, it really makes you wonder what else is just a cover story.
It forces you to be a much more critical consumer of news. How much of this current AI revolution is genuine technological progress that's actually going to improve our lives, and how much is just a convenient narrative for corporate restructuring designed to boost stock prices?
Are we actually innovating, or are we just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic and calling it a tech upgrade?
That is the trillion-dollar question right there.
Well, on that slightly provocative note, keep your eyes open this week, watch the headlines, but make sure you read the fine print too.
Always read the fine print.
Thanks for diving in with us today. We'll see you next time.